Hi, Karl again from Realty Executives Tucson Elite. Thanks for stopping by once again for the series that we're going through. Basically what we're going through here today is just some of the more basic skills of sales. One of the biggest things that you'll learn from this entire series is we cover many of the basic skills that you need to understand to be successful in real estate, whether or not you're an investor or whether you are a real estate agent or a broker. You have really the same consequences, the same actions, the same steps that you need to take that lead you to success. And one of the biggest steps that realtors, investors or brokers or anybody in particular in sales tends to forget is the step of pre-qualification. And so here we are, you've done your prospecting, however you've chosen to get that prospect. You've either called them on the phone, it was a sign call, or maybe you've knocked on the door, or they've responded to one of your ads. Somehow you've got a prospect, somebody who says that they've raised their hands, they want to buy or sell some real estate. In this case, we're going to talk about pre-qualifying a seller as a real estate agent for the listing. Okay, well, basically that's what we do. So now that you're on the phone with them, okay, there's a series of questions that you really ought to ask. And I've seen a ton of free qualification questions in the 16 years I've done this. And probably the best that I have ever seen have always been the Mike Ferry scripts. You can find the Mike Ferry Prequalification script on the MikeFerry.com website. It's a free download that's available to you. It's on their complimentary downloads tab on their main page at MikeFerry.com. So I'm going to go through that question with you. I'm going to go through the series of questions. There's 12 of them, and I would highly recommend you go ahead and commit these to memory as soon as you can, and then of course go ahead and use these on every listing presentation you go to. Okay? The first question is, before I come out, there's a couple quick questions I need to ask you. Is that okay? You're asking permission from them to ask you a few questions so that you can go ahead and make sure that you can help them. All right? Now, the first question we've talked about before, your gutsometer. This is going to really peg high on your gutsometer questions. It's going to take a lot of guts to ask this question, but it is so crucial. And the first question is, if what I said made sense and you felt comfortable and confident that I could go ahead and sell your home, would you list your home with me when I come out tomorrow at 2 o'clock? The reason why you want to ask that question is very, very critical. Number one is because you're going to find out very quickly where they stand. If they're planning on staying with this course for the next 30 days, then you're going to know. If they say, well, yeah, we would consider it, then you can go in with a lot more confidence. If they say, well, no, under no circumstances will we ever list with anybody because my mom is a realtor, then you know. But you see, you will never know unless you ask. And 30% of the time, they're going to say yes. And if they say, well, yeah, we consider it, hey, so much the better. That's even better for you. The next one is, are you planning on interviewing more than one agent for the job of selling your home? The reason why you want to ask that question is because it's good to know what your competition is. If you're going up against a big name agent in your marketplace, then you really need to know this, because then you know what to be prepared for. You know that other agent's weaknesses, and they all have them. If they're a team agent, you can at least go after them with the team concept and illustrate some of the weaknesses that the team concept has. If you're a team owner and you happen to have be going up against an individual, then you can focus on how strong the team concept is versus being an individual. If this person has a lot of listings that you're going up against, you can go ahead and formulate a presentation around how they may not have time for you. There's a lot of different ways you can go, but you'll never know unless you have some competition. Okay? Now, the next part, again, if you already know this, you just asked them this question in your previous script, then don't ask them. But, tell me again, where are you moving to? Now, that will go ahead and solidify in your mind the conversation about where it is that they're headed to, all right? And then, how soon did you have to be there? When you say how soon do you have to be there, that'll give you a very clear idea about their time frame and what it is that their expectations are. If they're saying, well, we have a job transfer and we need to move by the end of May, okay, and here it is March, well, then you know that you got to go ahead and price that property accordingly. If they say, well, we don't really need to sell until really about, say, July, we are getting a job transfer, well, then you can price it accordingly, okay? You can also find out how motivated they are from this part. I always like to add in the question, well, what happens if the home doesn't sell? That's always a great question to add right here because it causes them to think about the possibility of their home never selling. And let's just be honest. In Tucson today, there are 6,000 homes on the market, okay? Roughly 6,000 homes on the market. And last month, only about 1,500 of them actually sold. Now, when you look at that, okay, that is a 1 in 6 chance of selling your home. Now, I don't know in terms of percentages how much that is, but that's not a very big percentage. And so you have to take a look at it from that perspective that in all likelihood, your home will not sell. And that's a real tough thing to think about. The listing you take, in all likelihood, it will not sell. And you have to be prepared to have the conversation with that seller. They have to understand that pricing this property is incredibly important. If you have a 1 in 6 chance of selling your home on your own, just as a regular agent, okay, how much more important is it that we price this property and stage it correctly so that you'll get top dollar for this home? The next question, when I see you, how much do you want to list your home for? Now, in the old Mike Ferry script, it used to say realistically, okay? Now, I still like that. And if you've got some guts and you want to say it, let me ask you a question. When I see you, how much do you want to list your home for? Realistically. That's going to cause them to stop and think about it. Now, we all have what we want. And then we all have what we'll get. And the two, a lot of times, are way far apart. But when you say realistically, okay, that's going to cause them to think about it an extra second. I know I want $250,000, but realistically, I think in my head, I'm probably only going to get $220,000, okay? Well, great. You know what? As a professional real estate agent, I study homes and prices every single day. And therefore, I'm going to assume that you'll list your home with me at a price that'll cause it to sell. Is that correct? Now, you're making a couple important statements here. Number one, that you're a professional. You do this all the time. You study homes and prices every single day. They don't do that, okay? And therefore, it's just an assumption that you're going to list your home with me at a price that will actually cause it to sell, which means that the price is linked inextricably to the actual sales of the home. Now, look, as a real estate agent, especially if you're new, you have a tendency to get intimidated by them and thinking that they know what the hell they're talking about, okay? They say, well, we pull comps and we know what homes are selling for. Look, if you've been in the business longer than a week, you and I both know that comps can mean and often do many things, all right? Because what will happen is, if you have a home, if it's in a subdivision, surrounded by cookie cutter homes on both sides, and there's 4 or 5 real same models or something along those lines, then you probably have a really good idea of what that home's going to sell for within maybe $10,000, okay? But most homes don't fall in that category. Usually there's, some kind of upgrades. There was a model down the street that's an REO. It's a foreclosure over here. It's a short sale over there. And so sometimes those comps can really mean a lot of different things. And when we tend to think that the sellers spend all this extraordinary amount of time researching what the market does, then we are sorely mistaken. They don't have the time to do that. They have a regular job. They have not the tools for these things. Unless they are an investor who goes after some of these things on a regular basis, or if they're somebody who has their hand in this business often, chances are they're not going to have a real good grip on that price. And so you need to make sure it's really clear. As a real estate professional, I study homes and prices every single day, which is what you should be doing. You should be previewing homes every day, taking a look to see what the market is all about. The next part, what price won't you go below? Now this is important because not so that you can list it at that price, but at this point this will tell you a lot about whether or not they're going to be able to go ahead and be realistic and actually do what they say they need to have done. So for example, they say, well, we want to list the home at $220,000. And you say, okay, great. As a professional, I study homes and prices every day. Therefore, I'm going to assume that you'll list your home with me at a price that will cause it to sell. What price won't you go below? Well, we can't go below $210 because we owe $205. Okay. Now you know that the market, let's say, through your through some of your pre-qualification or your research, you found that the market in that area is only going to support 175. Well, then you know that their mind is thinking 220. Their head is thinking, well, we got to get 205, okay, but we won't go below 210 or something along those lines. Then you've got a short sale that you're dealing with. But you won't know these questions. You won't know without asking. Now, if they won't tell you, okay, how much will you not go below, you could always hit them with the question, well, let me ask you a question. If I had one of my buyers who came in, wanted to pay all cash, had a bucket full of cash, and was willing to close in, say, 30 days, and you said that you were asking $220 for the property, if they offered you, I don't know, $180 for the home, would you take it? Okay, some crazy number, all right? Well, I'd never take that. Okay, great. How much would you take? Well, I'd probably take, all cash, $200. Hey, that's giving you a really good idea of where to go now, okay? So about how much do you owe on the property? And they say, well, we owe blah, 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 blah. Okay, good to know. That way you can determine if this is going to be a short sale or not. The next step, have you ever thought about selling it yourself? Now, a lot of realtors have a problem asking this question because you think that if you ask this question, this is going to cause them to think about going for sell by owner. Hey, they've already thought about this, okay? This is an internet world. This is Web 2.0, and they've got the ability to go ahead and list their home on the market for $400 on MLS with some broker or for salebyowner.com or some of these other services. They've already thought about it. Okay, so you might as well talk about the elephant in the room right now so you can at least address it. If they say, well, yeah, we are thinking about selling it by owner. Okay, interesting, no problem. The reason why you want to know that is so that when you go there, you're not surprised. And you can go ahead and have 4 or 5 objection handlers for you if they come up and they're not impressed with your presentation and they're still questioning whether or not they should list, as opposed to going for sale by owner. Then you have something to say at the moment of truth as opposed to being caught with your hands down, okay? This is why the realtors in the National Association of Realtors get less than 50% of the listings they go after, okay? If you do it this way and you pre-qualify your presentations before you go and you do it correctly, you will get 75, 80, 85, even maybe 90% of the listings that you go after. My personal ratio is about 84%, all right? The thing about it is, it gives you a lot of power to know when you go into that listing presentation what the answers are, what to say, what their concerns are, so you can modify your presentation to meet their need. And that's the purpose of this. The next, will you help finance the home for the buyer? Or did you just want to cash out? You see, it's important to ask this question because a lot of times seller financing can make the difference. Remember, in this marketplace, seller financing is a great, great thing to have. And the reason why is because if you have one more ability, one more option for somebody that they can purchase this home without having to go through the hassle of having an FHA appraisal, without having to produce all their documents, without having to do all the things that they have to do, the craziness to get a loan, if you can offer seller financing, you can offer that property out at a little bit more of a premium. That's a good thing to have. Next, can you quickly describe the home for me? Now, the script itself says, will you please describe the home for me? I like to say, will you quickly describe the home for me? Because otherwise, you're going to get into a lot of drawn-out conversation. Well, back in 2004, we did such and such, and then we did this and that, and then we went to there and there, and then one time, my Aunt Susie came over and said such and such, and then we went ahead and changed. Oh, it drives you crazy. Look, you don't care about all the particulars because you're going to see it. You want to know, is there something in particular that's going to add value to this house? Something like, we added a pool. That's something you want to know. Hey, well, we've got, stainless steel appliances. That's something that's good to know. You may not know that from everything else you've researched, okay? But more importantly, it's going to tell you about their personality style. If they're more of an analytical type of personality, Then they're going to talk about, we priced it at, $165 a square foot, and we've got, a 9,483 square foot backyard, and we've got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths that measure 10 by 2, and, that's the kind of personality you're going to deal with. That way you know how to deal with them. If they're an amiable type personality, then they're going to be talking about how they have great times at the, in the den and the family room and so on and so forth. We have great parties over here, and things are just wonderful. We have families over. That way you can deal with them in that fashion. If it's a driver type of personality, type A, they're going to be like, hey, look, it is what it is. You saw what's in the ad. Okay, great. So now you know exactly how to react to that person. If they're more expressive, oh, it's just so beautiful. We went ahead and we did the faux painting, and we had the sponges, and we did this, and, all that sort of stuff. This is important, so you know what kind of personality you're presenting to. Because if it's a driver type A type personality, and I come in with a bunch of stats and facts and figures and numbers, it's going to drive them crazy, and they're going to throw me out. If they're an expressive type of personality, and that everything's just beautiful and wonderful and artistic and all this and happy and love and puppy dogs and unicorns, look, it's important to know, because that way I can modify my presentation and say, oh, this is fantastic. I love it. Look, I'm not that way. If you know me, you know I'm more analytical in nature. I like numbers, graphs, stats, charts, things like that. But I will modify who I am so I can be more in tempo with what they are. And that's where you're going to find a lot of value. Next, I'll be sending over a package of information. Would you quickly take a minute to review it before I come out? The purpose of this is the pre-listing package. And we'll go over this here in the next few days. But the pre-listing package is simply this. It is a package that you send over to the prospect before your appointment. It contains a lot of information about what it is you're going to do to sell the home, the price, what you think they're going to get, things of that nature, so that there's no surprises when you come out there. It saves a lot of time. All right. Next, do you have any questions for me before I come out? This is an incredible question to ask. Mike told me that this is like shooting fish in a barrel. Because if they say, well, yeah, how much commission do you charge? Great question. That'll be one of the first things we cover when I get out there. Or I haven't seen your house yet. Commissions are negotiable. Whatever your particular handler is. Do you have any other questions before I come out? Yeah, how long are your listing contracts? Well, it depends on a lot of different factors, but then, of course, we can figure that out too. Did you have any other questions? Well, yeah, what do you do to sell homes? Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. That's covered in the package I'm going to send to you tomorrow. Do you have any other questions? Well, no. Okay, great. Well, then I'll look forward to seeing you Tuesday at 4. Okay? Great. Just so you know, our meeting will only take between 5 and 25 minutes. Fair enough? Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's great. Perfect. I'll look forward to seeing you then. So the purpose here is when you've asked them, what sort of questions do you have before I come out? You're going to draw out all of the objections that they can think of to you. And you make a note of it. And that way, when you go there, they can't bushwhack you with some sort of objection that you never saw coming. And if you've been in real estate for more than a day, you've probably been in a situation where you've been at a presentation where they've said something to you, you never knew it, you never saw it coming, and now you're stumped and you're like, oh geez, should I cut my commission? Holy cow, I guess I can run an open house 5 days a week and twice on Sunday. I suppose I can do that. You're really caught unawares. But in this pre-qualification step, when you're asking this up front, there's no surprises. And when they say, how much commission do you charge? Then you know that that's something that will come up later. And you have 3 or 4 objection handlers for that. Well, what do you do to sell homes? If that comes up, you've got your marketing plan ready. Well, how long are your listing contracts? Then you already know what they're going to ask, and you have 3 or 4 answers for that too. So again, it's like shooting fish in a barrel because they've already told you everything that's in their head. They've drawn it out, and now you can go ahead and use that in your presentation to make it to where it's only 5 and 25 minutes or so, including paperwork. And also, in the last step, when you do tell them, just to let you know, our meeting will only take between 5 and 25 minutes, is that okay? That is going to set the expectation for them. because every other realtor that they're meeting, if you're competing for this listing, they're meeting with somebody that's going to take them, their listing presentations are an hour and a half, 2 hour long things, and it's a trial. It's a nightmare, okay? Imagine being in your house with a plumber for 2 hours, talking about the piping you're going to replace. It'd drive you nuts, all right? They feel the same way when you come over, okay? So the thing about it is, that's the questions that you need to ask. And again, you can find the script on the Mike Ferry website, mikeferry.com, under the free downloads tab. Go ahead and download that. I encourage you. That is the best script I have ever found for pre-qualifying a seller. If you use it in its entirety, then you will find all of your questions being answered prior to your appointment. You'll be able to tailor your presentation, and your presentation will become incredibly effective. And I think that's where you'll find you'll make a lot more money. So I hope this has been of value to you. If it has, please feel free to go ahead and favorite, like, subscribe down in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great day.